With me now is a lady I wake up to most mornings, not wake up with, Jill Dando from Breakfast Time. How is it you get up at 3 o'clock every morning and still look fantastic?
Well, that's very kind of you. I've had the week off, actually, Derek, so I've caught up on some sleep, I have to admit. But it's back to work with a vengeance on Monday morning at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Yes.
I saw you were eyeing up McCrick there. What is it about him? I thought you were looking very closely at that body,
yes.
Was it?
It's the hair, actually, and the hands. I think he's racing's answer to David Bellamy. He has to be, doesn't he?
Bellamy, he's got to be.
Definitely, all the flora and fauna.
Are you a racing girl?
I'm not, I have to say, no. I think I should appear in the novice handicap today. I've been this is my third visit to a meeting, and it's thoroughly great fun.
What's it like being here live? It's quite different, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and watching it on the television, yes. It's just the whole atmosphere of the tic-tac man and everything else going on. It's super.
Now, I notice you've got a bundle of £10 notes in the old bag. What are they going on in this next race?
The next race has to have Harry's coming, I think. That's what my money's gone on.
Why
my friend
is
has
it?
bet on Keen Edge, so between us we hopefully should stand some chance. I don't know why. I just suddenly picked it out. I thought it had quite good form. So.
Well, I tell you what, you women can have a habit of being able to do that. Anyway, I hope you have a good day and don't sleep in on Monday.
Certainly not.
Thanks,
Jill.
Bye-bye.
That season started, as Jimbo said, at Bangor, and Simon Holt reports in the Sporting Life. Tremendous race for the first race, all the thrills and the spills, which make jump racing the spectacle it is. The top weight odds on Mr. Feathers was clear and falling at the last. The double carpet chance goes and wins a thing called Singing Flame goes and wins it. But the sadness, of course, in National Hunt Racing, that Lingham Duke had to be pulled up before the last, had to be destroyed after breaking down badly on his near four. The first casualty of the season, I'm afraid, there, Lingham Duke. Now, in another casualty, as far as the stewards are concerned, Willie Carson yesterday at Goodwood. And here he is on Jimmy Barney, the 7-to-1 outsider of 4, winning the first, but was disqualified. Once again, of course, the whip is the cause of the problem. Horses running away from the whip, running crookedly because they're being whipped and beaten. And that's the reason that Carson was disqualified. As the rules stand, of course, the stewards had no option, and few would argue with their decision. But my goodness, Monty Court certainly does, with the most appalling decision I have known on the turf. Lydia Pearce's disqualification in the Diamonds last week. Remember, she just came out on, if memory serves, and came right across at the start, did nothing wrong after that. One horse was slightly hampered, and Monty Court says after the appeal was turned down at Portman Square on Thursday, he says the reputation of the disciplinary committee has reached such a level that there is a universally held belief that expectations of a completely fair hearing at Portman Square are no more realistic than talk of fairies or Father Christmas. It has really come to this, and the stewards are guilty, in my view only admittedly, of bringing racing into disrepute themselves. Punters are sick to death of decisions like this, which are incomprehensible. All right, the rules were broken, but she's an amateur rider, and I just hope that De Beers, the sponsoring company, give Lydia Pearce a separate pair of diamonds to try and make up some consolation for the terrible injustice that's been done to her there. Also in the Daily Mail, hint of this trouble that we're having over in the Gulf and the invasions over there, and that ghastly creature Saddam Hussein, what an awful creature he is. Well, what would happen to racing if things went wrong over there? Well, Angus Gold, the racing manager of Sheikh Hamdan, says, I feel certain there is little danger of their pulling out of Britain, he says. The whole operation is fully financed here in Europe, and even if Dubai were invaded, I imagine we would carry on for a good while. And Colin McKenzie goes on to say, but the mere suggestion serves to illustrate the debt the racing industry owes to the Arab owners. It certainly does. And if anything went wrong there, my goodness, we would all feel it over here. Now, headline writing in sport is particularly difficult, and all of journalism. I'm absolutely useless at it, as I am at everything else. It was a great piece in The Independent when Chris Broad was bowled by Peter Sleep yesterday, and the headline says, Broad falls to sleep. I really do like that one. Well done, the chap who did that. Give him an extra rise, the editor of The Independent should do for that. And finally, in the Mirror, if you're dreaming of having a great big win and what you're going to do, well, look what happened in America. According to American lawyer Arnold Forster, a man rang home and told his wife, pack your bags, I just won the lottery. Excitedly, she asked, shall I pack the winter or summer clothes? He replied, pack everything. I want you out by tonight. I'd get rid of the booby the same way if I had the chance.
I'm off to Chicago tonight. I want to know who I'm to take here. They're all volunteering to come with me. By the way, Lord King of British Airways, 6:30 flight to New York. Make sure it waits for me. And I may bring one or two more people will be coming. These young ladies. Do you want to come with me to Chicago?
No, these poor girls.
There you are, you see. What a time they'd have. My kind of town it would be. Tomorrow, I've got to be off. Got to leave you. Who shall I take? Which one shall I take?
Oh, I would take... Well, that just about concludes Variety Club Day here at Sandown. We've had a marvellous day, and I hope you have as well. So from all of us here on Channel 4, the next time that you will be seeing... What are you laughing about? Why is everybody laughing? Kato, you stupid... Not now! Not now! You stupid fool! Not now!
Chairman, what do you do, Chairman? I'm really good at boosting you up. Well, how do you miss the races? You're a multi-million-pound company now, but you love the races, don't you?
I'm only allowed out on bank holidays and high holidays, but when I do come out, I enjoy every moment of it.
Yeah, but you've been all the way up. You've been to Russia, you've been to Japan recently.
All over the place. That's part of my job. That's what I get paid for.
Yeah, but do you keep in touch with the races? You know, you used to know what was going on. What's Cyril back in? They all used to want to know. Is it like that these days, or are you out of touch?
That's a long time ago. No, I try and keep in touch, but I read the Racing Post and the Sporting Life at night, not in the morning, after it's all happened these days.
So you see, and do you watch the videos at all?
Never get a chance. No.
Now, one thing I must ask you, for Ladbrokes, one of the betting sides, one of the sides you're concerned with, this early morning taking prices. And people say you advertise in the paper, you go around to Ladbrokes shops, you don't get on. What is the position?
Well, first of all, do they say that? I think they say that about anything. And there can be a share quoted in the morning at 110p, and you want to buy at 110 or sell at 110, it's not available. It's a market, isn't it? But the truth of the matter is that if we advertise a price, it's always there, at least for the first hour of trading.
But is that for the sharks who get on early in your offices and all those big punters?
I think that we will offer prices the previous day. These prices are made up the previous day. And as long as they are available for the first hour of trading, I don't think anybody can grumble. Right. It's up to anybody to take that price, or to take SP, or take any price they want. But it is a market price. Exactly the same on the racecourse. One moment it's 2-1, the next moment it's 7-4.
Of course. The Derby coming up, Cyril. Now, who's Stein tip for the Derby? Come on, you bet the winner every year. We're sick of you backing the winner. Come on, who is it?
Well, I think the only horse that... which doesn't have any question marks about it is the favourite, isn't it? The
Razine.
It's 3-1 or 7-2.
I think you've shortened it up. Your firm shortened it up to 3.
Well, I didn't even know. It was 7-2 in the paper this morning. There you are.
Shortened up.
Well, they've laid a lot of money a bit, I suppose, this morning, but you've got to have regard for the horse. It's the only horse there's no question marks about. So if I'm going to back it on the day, I'll back Razine.
10 minutes to go before the next race. The jockey's just coming in, so it gives me a chance to talk to a man whose horse didn't run very well in the last race, Slick Cherry's owner, Harry Redknapp. Manager of Bournemouth as well, of course. What happened? What went wrong with it?
I don't know, we just had a bad weekend, Derek. You know, we thought the horse would run quite well, but actually finished way down the field, and that couldn't have been a true run. I think Elsie was a little bit disappointed with the way she ran, and just take her home and see how she is from there.
As you said, it's been a desperate weekend for you. I mean, we've all seen what happened at Bournemouth against Leeds on Saturday. Yep. What are your thoughts now?
Well, it was the worst I've ever seen, worst scenes I've ever seen at football, and yeah, it was frightening. It really was terrifying, and it was for the people of Bournemouth. Really, it's been a terrible weekend. You know, it was a ridiculous weekend to actually stage the fixture in the first place. To have Leeds coming down last game of the season, going for the championship to a seaside town and bringing all them supporters, and they came down so many thousands without tickets, and really just to cause mayhem, and that's what they did.
But you've been around, you know what life's all about. I mean, what should happen? What should somebody do? Because we keep saying something should be done about this, but nothing seems to be done that is actually going to stop it. What do you think should be done?
I think in the end, maybe the only way is to punish the football clubs. If they've got that type of supporters who come and are going to do what they've done on Saturday, maybe it's to punish the club. And maybe if they love the club as much as they say they do, maybe they'll behave themselves, you know, take points away from the football club or whatever.
But I mean, Leeds have won the championship. They're going to be promoted. Would you say don't allow them to be promoted to the first division, something like that?
I certainly would say don't allow their supporters into away games. I think that there should be a ban on their away supporters. But it's how you keep them out of the ground. They've come to our ground on Saturday. They've stolen tickets off innocent people. They've threatened people for their tickets. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, Derek. You couldn't even get into the car park. They're throwing bricks and they're trying to turn cars over. They were a disgrace. And
I mean, it takes us on to the World Cup. I mean, what chance now of British clubs getting back into Europe, whatever happens in Italy?
Certainly can't see it for a few years. I think people are going to look at that again. Mind you, we're not the only country with a problem. I mean, in Holland they have terrible problems as well. They're getting problems in Italy as well now. But to be perfectly honest as well, Derek, there's problems outside football as well with you know, people nowadays just can't behave themselves, unfortunately, a lot of these young people. There's a lot of great supporters about still who love football and come and watch the games, but there's an awful lot of idiots who attach themselves to football or cricket or boxing or wherever you go now, you'll find nutters, you know.
But you mentioned those sports, you didn't mention racing. We seem to be very lucky. I mean, the contrast is quite alarming, isn't it?
We've not had many bad days at racing. I mean, I love racing on my days off when I get a chance. I love to come. We've had 1 or 2 days where we've had some problems, but very few and far between. I mean, people come and enjoy it and behave themselves. themselves, but for some reason they seem to attach themselves to these other sports.
Yeah. Well, it's been a desperate weekend, as you say. Bournemouth, unfortunately, down as well. So what are you doing to rebuild the team during the summer?
Well, we've had a terrible season of injuries, Derek. I lost 7 of my foot best 11, about 12 games to go, and from then on we really found it difficult to win a game. We've been in the third division before. We won the championship a couple of years back, and we'll bounce back next year. We'll have a right go, and I'm sure that we're capable of getting promoted next year.
Listen, I don't want to say, but I mean, Frankham and Thompson can pretty good in the midfield, you know. We can sort of pass it about.
Not quite that short yet. I've got Frank Lampard here today. He's involved in the horse with me. I think Frank gets fit before you.
Good luck and have a good summer. I hope it gets better next season.
I'm sure it will. Thank you.
For next weekend, certainly according to the trade papers, the Sporting Life, Super Salsable to return in triumph. Recording of Big Arc Trials on Channel 4. Make sure you watch those on Channel 4 tomorrow, 5:20. And Hellenica Beauty, that's in the Ledger. And exactly the same in the Racing Post. Hellenica's a classic look, and the French acid test for our favourite, Salsabil. But today I've gone and interviewed Steve Cawthon, who reckons River God's a banker his own horse. I can't see us getting beaten, says Steve, and asks about Snurge. I have to ask, will he get the trip? And is the going soft enough for Hellenic? And against all these two here, I go along with River God. The horses really will test them for stamina. That's what the Ledger's all about, to outstay them, River God. Now, there's an interesting piece here, a review of a book by John Fairley, Racing in Art, and it goes back to art in racing since the last century and before that even. And he quotes artist Ben Marshall as saying, I discover many a man who will pay me 50 guineas for painting his horse, who thinks 10 guineas too much to pay for painting his wife. That's this super quote there from John Fairley, and I agree with it. I've got pictures of me all over my home, our dogs, our Labradors there over. Wouldn't dream of having a picture of the booby looking down on me. Absolutely appalling state of affairs that would be. The Times Saturday Review, stargazing at Eton, a very good quote here. There exists a remarkable number of Etonians who have wheedled their way into the media. Of course, that's all Etonians ever do is wheedle their way everywhere. Of course, I exempt the noble lord from that stricture. And there is an absolutely horrific piece in Today. 40,000 children die of starvation every day, and we pay farmers to grow food for the dump. That kind of thing is absolutely unbelievable and puts into some sort of perspective the pleasures that we get every day of our lives. And finally, there's a very interesting piece in Gibbs' Gossip in the Mirror, which he says about Field Marshal Montgomery and his successors to the desert rats are going into the desert to sort out that arch rat Saddam Hussein today. Well, there's a quote here from Monty who said, as God once said, and I think rightly. The amazing thing is that Machiavellian has turned up here at all. I have never known a hot pot big race favourite to be so strongly opposed by virtually the whole press. Now, it all started with the form guides on Thursday. Race form handicap hook, watch Anshan stay on top. Sporting Life Weekender, rock solid for Rock City. They took their lead from that, the rest of the papers, and look at them, the Sporting Life. Anshan to grab Guinea's gold. French Ace looks such poor value. In the Racing Post, Sure Sharp can have the edge over the Guineas rivals. The tabloids join in. Carson Encore, Willie can go like L for a big double. How ghastly that is. Steve Cawthon gets in on the act here, Sharp to cut down Mac. Well, he won't cut down me any time, dear old Steve Cawthon. The Express and John Garnsey, Mickey Taker, El Mamul can keep Carson smiling. It is solid, this opposition here. Cash in with Smart Tyrrell, Charlie Fawcus in the Mirror. In the Sun, Anshan is the answer for Templegate, the Pin Sticker's Guide. Well, that's about a pin sticker's tip, I reckon that. In the Daily Mail here, Robin Goodfellow usually knows what he's talking about. Why, it's Anshan for me, he says. And the heavyweights, they're going in on the act as well. Paul Hayward, Anshan to Seal Gosden's return. A horse that can beat the favourite in the 2,000 guineas. Everybody's got one to do that, apparently. Even Richard Bearline falls for it. French challenger Septième MCL makes most appeal each way. In the Daily Telegraph, the venerable Peter Scott, El Marmol may prove top value in the guineas. And there is only one paper who stands out with the senior correspondents, that's the Times. Mandarin Michael Phillips, nothing to match Machiavellian. Good old Tangerine, at least he's kept his sense of proportion. I would ask all the press this, if your jobs were on the line, those fat expenses that you get, if you had to tip the winner or you'd be out of work, you wouldn't have given these rubbishy tips. You would have gone for the class horse, Machiavellian, and you know it.
Just talking about the previous race with Coustark, who didn't quite win. No. What was the news from Mike Shannon about the horse finishing third there?
Well, he says you win some and you lose some.
Mm-hmm. And you lost that one.
We lost that one.
Did you
Paul
see the
came
horse
third.
run at Newmarket, by the way?
No,
Where he
I
won?
didn't. No, I didn't. So maybe the answer to that is I should stay away from
You
the
should
race
stay
course.
away. You're the one who's doing all this.
Maybe.
Tell us, how did you get into racehorse ownership?
Oh, it just came about, really. It's not something I've been particularly interested in before, but it's fun. It's nice. I enjoy it.
So what happened? Did Mike come to you and say, hey, do you fancy a share in a horse, or what?
No, one of the other co-owners who's got some other horses mentioned it to me, and I thought it would be lots of fun.
And why did you call it Slow Exposure?
Well, I think it's a funny name. I like the idea of standing there screaming, come on, slow. And it's a reference to my photographic career.
And how is that developing? Because I was reading a few months ago that you'd had an exhibition in London. What's the latest on the photography side?
I'm working on a book, a photographic book. So it's steady.
And what about going down to Lambourne to see the horse? You pop down at 6 in the morning and have a look at all the goals?
No, I've been to see him. I'd love to watch him on the gallops. It's lovely. I just think he's beautiful, and I mean, I've had horses before, but horses that I could ride. It's the first horse I've had that I haven't been able to ride.
I'm with you.
But it's slightly frustrating.
So you're not going to get a license out to ride as a lady jockey?
No,
not
I
that
don't
keen.
think so, no.
So what's the ambition with the race horses? What would you like to do with them?
It's just fun, isn't it, really? It's lovely to come out to the races, and it's something that I enjoy. And it's lovely. It's a lovely day out.
Say that again. It's nice to have you here, but
Thank you. Thank you very
Somebody
much.
said to me the other day that John McCrick looked the type of person you'd expect to see rummaging through a dustbin. I tend to agree with him. He's been rummaging through the papers this morning. John, what have you got for us?
I shudder to think some of the trash you'd find in the greatest jockey's dustbin. Right, not so much trash in the Racing Post, certainly, and news that Machiavellian and Be My Chief, the top two-year-olds of last season, are to retire. I think that Machiavellian's been pretty expensive to certain people that I'm not too far away from. Not sorry to see him go back to stud or go to stud. Marcus Armitage, Grand National winning jockey in the Telegraph. He was over in Russia last weekend, and the big race was won by Andy Orkney over there, and it was worth 2,250 rubles. That's about 200 quid, so Perestroika certainly hasn't come to prize money winnings in Russia. In the Daily Star, Frank Curran reports that having a flutter is more fun than sex, he says. And also he quotes Graham Sharp of William Hills, who says, most betting shop punters wouldn't bat an eyelid if Miss World walked into the shop stark naked. They would be paying more attention to the next race. I'm not quite sure which shop Graham bets in, but he also quotes, Frank Curran quotes DJ Tony Blackburn, who said, personally, I'd much rather go to bed with a gorgeous girl than a horse. Well, I don't know about any young lady forced to find herself in that unfortunate position with a wretched Tony Blackburn. I think she'd prefer to be in bed with a horse rather than with him. In The Guardian, they go to Laytown races, where it's on the seaside, and they report that 48% of favourites win at the meeting. Well, I think the bookmakers going to the quicksand pretty fast over there. Smashing picture in the Telegraph of Godfrey Evans, his 70th birthday, one of the great wicket keepers, one of the great world's all-round sportsmen, super character, Godfrey Evans. Happy birthday to him. And in the Times, they're reporting the special clothing being brought for the very brave Kate Adie out in Amman in Jordan. What I'd like to know as an ordinary Brit is how the American correspondents like Ted Koppel and Dan Rather, who are hated in Iraq, can actually get into Baghdad, and our lads have to stand behind with a palm tree behind them and somewhere in the desert to report. Why can't our news heroes get into Baghdad? And finally, in the Telegraph, my noble lord reports very, very honourably indeed, there's Harry Piper, with 55 years of the British Red Cross, has retired. I'm glad backroom people in racing are mentioned like that. Well done, my noble lord.
Thank you. He's a lovely man, Harry Piper. He's been picking battered jockeys up for 50 years, starting with Sir Gordon Richards. I'm sure he picked you up, John, from time to time.
He did pick me up. He's a lot better than the guy at Stratford who tried to pick me up one day. I was laying on the floor and still had my helmet done up, and he was trying to pull it off of my head, and I had a dislocated shoulder. It wasn't the most pleasant thing. Didn't realise I had a strap underneath my chin. He pulled me about 6 foot through the grass before he realised.
Welcome back to the trade papers. Normally they lead with boring tipping pieces, but here the Racing Post, Tim Richards quotes Martin Piper saying about Bonanza Boy can't win the Welsh National because I don't think he can beat Boris Eva. Absolutely clear for Martin Pipe. If you're backing Bonanza Boy to get the hat-trick, the trainer's telling you not to do it, better than learning what the hacks think. They don't know anything what they're talking about, of course. And the courses are hitting back about whether horses should be trained on the racecourse. And Roger Farrant, the clerk of the course at Chepstow, here's a real go. If an owner pays a trainer to train his horse, he says, then it is the trainer's job to provide the necessary gallops. I certainly go along with that. And also in the Sporting Life, Arctic Call, the Hennessy winner is to tackle Desert Orchid in the King George at Kempton on Boxing Day. If you can't come racing at Kempton or anywhere around the country Boxing Day, watch us on Channel 4. Great time, great race we're going to have for the King George. In the Racing Post, trainers reject call for wages arbitration. The trainers have laid down a take-it-or-leave-it attitude to the lads of less than the rate of inflation, and the only way that owners are subsidising their hobby of racing is on the back of lads. The levy board, it's our money, should give £100 to each runner into the stable pool directly. Costs £6 to £7 million. Don't give it directly to the owners. The lads, they're the ones who need it and deserve it. Underpaid racing lads is a disgrace to the game. There's a great picture in the Daily Mail here of Vindicator. This is the horse that's led in 10 Grand National winners. He was at the Hillsborough soccer disaster. He was at the Toxteth riots. And the great affection between Police Constable Gunnell and the horse. Man and horse. Smashing picture there. Going into retirement, Vindicator. One of the great shots of the year, of course, when he comes back with a Grand National winner. Simon Barnes in the Times reports on that programme in Channel 4 Dispatches, which causes so much controversy still, that the Office of Fair Trading also showing an interest and is investigating 6 aspects of the programme. I think that's got a good few furlongs yet to run. That story, those of you who bet on the weather and what lunatics you must be to do that, well, the form book says there have been 10 white Christmases this century. The first was in 1906, the last in 1981. So on my reckoning, that means there's 8 to 1 average against it being a white Christmas. There's no chance of having one this year, thank goodness for that. In the Independent, look at this. US gives up hope of peace in the Gulf. I think we better enjoy Christmas and the New Year. There could be a horrendous time coming over there in just a month or two's time. And finally, Frank Keating in the Weekend Guardian is a smashing piece. He's given up hunting and he's gone off it. And look what he says about hunting, first of all. He says hunting is very much like adultery. Endless hanging about, false starts, great expectations, moments of sublime thrills and passion, lots of hurt, extremely expensive, and morally indefensible. All I can say to Frank Keating is, it's a sign of old age, Frank, old chap, when you give up both hunting and adultery.
When you led the table, people accused you of monopolising the owners, the horses. So what about the Arabs, who are actually bigger than you? Are you worried that they're monopolising?
I think it was purely journalists, Derek. Certainly no people I knew ever accused me of dominating anything.
But in those days when you were winning everything, and it's not so long ago, you were actually carving up all the big races, or so a lot of people thought. How worried are you about the Arab domination?
Not at all. Not at all. Not worried at all about it.
In what way do you think it's good for racing?
Well, they provide a lot of labour. Their horses are run very fairly. I think they're very good for the sport.
How instrumental were you in bringing them actually into racing, British racing?
Not that much, but they picked my brains a lot. I went out to Dubai 6 times and talked to Sheikh Mohammed and Sheikh Hamdan, and you know, sort of helped them put their act together. I think they're very good for racing. I do worry slightly about the smaller owner. I think the competition has frightened a lot of that type of owner out. Well, when I say the small owner, the man who would like to buy 3 horses a year, I think there's no point in taking them on.
I mean, what about the smaller owner? What about yourself? I mean, they've taken over...
I don't take them on.
You don't?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't buy 1 horse in Kentucky.
Neither did the Arabs. I mean, they weren't very...
They bought 30% of the market.
Yes, but I understand with the latest situation from the
Well, they bought in Saratoga as well. Their agents bought everywhere. They're going to be buying at Newmarket. Don't kid yourself.
They're not going to play twice?
No, of course they're not. No.
They're not.
No.
Let's have a chat with Jeff Lewis, who was the former champion, top jockey, became a trainer. Jeff, have you got any Arab horses?
Afraid I haven't. But, you know, I say what Robert says, they have been very good for our game. They've upheld the breed in the industry. They've kept the great brood mare, the good brood mares, the stallions. And, you know, if we take the Arabs, the sheikhs, out of British racing, half our bloodstock's going to go. If they were on the open market, the Japanese and the Americans would suddenly take over and take, I would think, the most important part of our industry away from England.
I mean, how close is that to happening? I mean, if there is war in the Middle East, if there is, I mean, could that happen?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't take that. I mean, I don't know. This very serious, but I mean, I'm not a diplomat in war or anything like that. I'm just worried about my own game and business, and I feel that if we lose them, it'll be a big loss.
But are they not sort of tending to monopolise? We see sort of 3 Sheikh Mohammed runners in one race, 4 Hamdan runners in one race. Is that not taking away the competitive side of British racing?
Well, I suppose it's difficult, but it's always been difficult. I mean, I bought a horse up here just today, and £7,000 at Doncaster. He was second in the Acorn, so it does prove that money doesn't buy everything, and you can always come along and still buy the cheap horse. Of course, it's difficult when, with the number of horses they have, the trainers have to go to the smaller meetings, but the Jockey Club are changing the rules bit by bit with the claim and racing and things like that. But no, just without doubt, they are good for the game, and we'd be, at the moment, we'd be a bit difficult to do without them.
So you welcome the Arabs and you wish they stay?
Certainly, certainly.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.
As a breeder.
As a breeder.
Right.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.
This is the heart of Tattlesall's Ring here, where the bookmakers are all lined up, and it's like an abattoir, they're saying, the blood flowing after those last 3 favourites. Let's go and have a word with some of them. How have the bookmakers been doing?
Well, very bad day.
Good.
The worst results possible.
Terrific news, worst results possible. How are the bookies doing?
Leave us out, John.
Leave us out, John. They don't even want to talk about it. Come on, take your punishment like men. How are they doing?
I'm glad to say I've got a rich mother-in-law. That's all.
Isn't it heartbreaking, these old bookies? They're going. And how are the bookies doing?
Terrible.
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 I suppose you backed all the winners, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you are. The youngsters are able to back all the winners. Let's try and find anybody else here. Did you back any winners?
No, he wants to win.
Here's one very sorry. He didn't back any winners. Obviously, his father must be a bookie, actually, the way they're coping here. Bookies, how do they do, bookmakers?
It's very bad today.
Well, why is that? Why are all the favourites winning the well-backed
they're
horses?
all winning, aren't they? The bookies haven't got a chance.
Terrible.
5 and 6.
You haven't got a chance.
Of course
Isn't it
you
terrible?
absolutely.
Oh, should we have a whip round for you? Give him some money for the bookmakers. Should we go and help them out? Look at the punters here. Who's won today? Have you won?
Yes, I'll bet a winner, yes.
Who did you back?
How about the last winner?
Well done. What price did you get?
Well, I took the best prize, 8-1.
It was actually 10-1, Barry's Gamble. You could have got a bit of 10-1, but come racing, you got 8-1, the 9-2 favourite. Did you back any winners?
No bet today,
no bet today. So anyway, that's about the best news the bookmakers have had. They've been really wiped out. As I said, a bloodbath down here.
Just dose of John McCurrick.
Well, the dose as far as the trade papers, tomorrow's Irish Derby. Quest for fame to be king in the Racing Post, and in the Sporting Life, more fame for Quest. That's the Sporting Life. Now, 10 Derby winners from Epsom have gone on to win the Irish Derby, but 7 Epsom winners have been beaten in the Irish Derby, and those of us who reckon Salsabille's the one tomorrow will be absolutely delighted that the trade papers go the other way. The Star having a really big splash here. Winners, your new colour racing extra in the Star, and a cracking 4 pages they've got. Colours here for the Budweiser Irish Derby tomorrow. So really good effort on the part of the tabloids. Good luck to the Star on that. Let's hope they keep it up. And in the Times, Sir Gordon White, who's the chairman of Ever Ready, the big boss there, has a discussion with Graham Rock. Remember, he called for an owner's strike, did Sir Gordon White not so long ago. Well, he has another go here. He says what the Jockey Club needs to do is assemble all the statistics and show the government what is happening. For the first time in recent memory, the number of registrations of 2-year-olds is down. This is an industry in decline. Well, I don't think the government are going to listen too much to wealthy men like Sir Gordon White. They have their own private taxation racing has, which no other industry has, direct from the punter to the wealthy owner via the betting levy. Owners are up, horses are up, the game's flourishing. I don't think Tales of Woe will hear too many pleadings in Whitehall. That won't go down too well. And later on, Graham Rock says Impressive Mujadid, whatever the thing's called, looks a name worth remembering, a horse who won here yesterday. And Graham says that like many horses owned by Sheikh Hamdan Al Maktoum, their names are incomprehensible and almost unpronounceable to the British racing public. This is absolutely true. It's going to be a very serious problem now. You cannot keep pace with these beautifully bred horses. They're winning everything and nobody knows who the hell they are because their names are so awful. Why can't we have the Arabic name for Sword of Heaven or whatever it is and call the wretched thing Sword of Heaven? Here, stable lads must have a wonderful life here, according to the Times Saturday Review. This is what they do all the time. They go carrying each other around the yards. I think I'll apply to 1 or 2 Newmarket yards if I can carry lasses like that around here. We've got the World Cup coming up, and the headline certainly of the day comes from the Sun. It's Charlie and Tamat, the Cameroon star. It says, "You think we all live up trees, throw spears and eat each other." Well, you certainly would if you read such rubbish as that in the Sun. Absolutely disgusting stuff, putting that in a headline like that. And finally, there's a story here in the Weekend Guardian about eating horses, and this awful business about cooking hens and how you eat them, and the horse in the cuts, and I think it's absolutely disgusting. I certainly can't believe how anyone could eat, although that poor little fellow there about to be eaten. That's absolutely awful. But they do say a four-legged friend, listen to this, a four-legged friend, he'll never let you down. Tender and tasty, right up to the end. A 1, 2, 3, four-legged friend. Absolutely sick. How these continentals can eat these lovely horses, I just do not know. Mad cow disease is one thing, but eating horses as an alternative, my four-legged friends, we can't do that, bruv. I was just worried that Sir Mark Prescott, the feared disciplinarian, old Harrovian, Newmarket trainer, he trains at Heath House, and in the Weekend Guardian it says murder at Heath House. And I thought some wretched stable out of his had dared to turn up 2 minutes late for work and got the normal Mark Prescott treatment, but apparently some other cause célèbre. But I think there will be murder at Heath House if that horse, 2 Left Feet, doesn't win the Isha Cup. That's fully expected today, that 2 Left Feet. Tom Jones, the Newmarket trainer, has his say about racing in a letter in the Sporting Life. And listen to this. He says, like a fading tart, racing seems well set on the downward path from the proud title of Sport of Kings to plaything of the punters. And in her melancholy descent, it seems she must endure the indignity of manipulation for the enrichment of the hallmaster and the ephemeral amusement and pleasure of his clients. Where, I wonder, will the poor old darling end up? Where, I wonder, will poor old Tom Jones end up when he writes like that? Newmarket watering for the guineas, just what we need for Machiavellian. Nick Lees, keep pouring that water on for Machiavellian, old chap. And in here today, it's apart from Whitbread Day, of course, it's Guardian Classic Trial Day. And there's no journalist I like reading more than Richard Bearline, really informed, a man who knows and understands the game. Look at these kind of gems he had in his column today about Sasaki, the Derby favourite. He says, he continues to disappoint at home. And as for digression, the one-time Derby favourite, he says, I understand the latter is still somewhat backward. That's information. That's the kind of horses you certainly wouldn't bat having read that. And he goes on to give his tip for the race. He says about Missionary Ridge, he has been working so well recently that I believe he holds an outstanding chance. And he would probably have been my selection if I had not selected Rockhopper for the race card before the latest information came to hand. Oh, Richard there's got an each way bet. I think if either of those two wins, I think he'll probably claim it. Cracking good journalist Richard Bearline understands the game, unlike most of the other hacks. Now here, Chris Hutchins in Today has an interesting piece. There's a sign in the Donald Trump's new Taj Mahal hotel in Atlantic City which reads, in case of illness, lift your receiver and ask for the house physician. While awaiting his arrival, you may have the maid on the floor. That'll probably make you even worse. And finally, James Whittaker's Royal Diary here. He starts off a story, he says, the canny old baked bean, the queen to you and I. Baked bean, my noble lord? I've never called Her Majesty a baked bean.
If only they'd had a proper disciplinarian at Harrow in the old days, think what we might all have been saying.
What I particularly like is his father, Michael, was quoted. Remember, Michael rode the Grand National winner, Oxo, in 1959, and he says, all we worry about is that he rides winners and comes back safely. That's really the essence of the greatest of all sports, national hunt racing. The Daily Star cover it probably best in the tabloids from Tony Lewis here, and he says after one of the records that Skew was going for, I remember after he'd taken a crashing fall at Towcester in yet another vain bid for the record, he happily signed autographs in the crowd and judged the best turned out horse in the following race. He's an absolute gentleman, Peter Scudamore, smashing chap, no side, modest, so skilled and brave. But let's see how the other papers cover it. Well, one here, The Sun, just gives it a paragraph, and I'm not blaming The Sun. The MB goes a veteran comic, Charlie Chester, 75, and jockey Peter Scudamore, 31. It puts our own little world into some sort of perspective. What I don't like is papers printing blatant inaccuracies in their letters column, as the Sporting Life does here, leaving it to the experts. As I said, we were also told by Channel 4's experts, McCririck and McGrath, that Machiavellian was unbeatable in the 2,000 guineas. Well, I'll hold my hand up, I'm totally guilty, but Jim McGrath consistently said the opposite. So how a paper comes to print that, and how an idiot like A. Fraser-Jones comes to write it, I'll never know. There's a smashing piece here in the Daily Telegraph. They're doing a series on the Battle of Britain, and part 1 is today. It's a great piece, great reading. Just to remind you, 50 years ago, Dunkirk, bookmakers were betting then that Hitler was 8-1 on. Don't bet odds on. You know what happened to Hitler. Watch that series in the Telegraph. And finally, there's a great piece in the Daily Express which says the Beebs are turn-off. Well, we all know that. That's no news. And Broadcast magazine claimed the BBC is stuffed with elderly formats and flagging performers. The corporation have produced a stable full of old hacks overdue for the glue factory. And that's a bit unfair on the BBC racing team of Julian Wilson and Richard Pittman, don't you?
Shops, arguments continue to rage over the quality of SIS service, and the only national independent bookmaker security firm who vets all they send out are Vetabet. And I got Mike Higgins with me. And first of all, Mike, SIS have had a monopoly for over 12 months. How are they doing?
In one word, excellent. I'm a great admirer of SIS. I like the service, but having said that, I think there could be improvements in it.
What sort of things do you want changed?
The first thing I'd like them to drop is the afternoon sound greyhound meeting. I don't think it's, I think it's superfluous to requirements, quite honestly.
And what about the Hong Kong racing and the trotting and all that sort of thing?
It was an experiment that unfortunately failed, but until you try something, you don't know. And I take my hat off to them for trying it. It's, along with many other things, it's an innovation that SIS have tried to bring entertainment to the betting public, and I take my hat off to them for trying. They have proved by the SIS Hong Kong experiment that they are capable of technically transmitting a service from abroad into this country.
Right, let's go and look at the figures. Now, Vetabet have monitored the figures in 5,703 races, not including the evenings, for a year, from April last year to March this year. And in the last show, that's the big question mark, was the same as the SIS in 4,109 cases. That seems very fair, 72%.
I would say that's excellent. No problem at all.
Now, the winners not quoted in the betting, 132, they're the big price horses.
Not many people back those anyway.
Now, the big question is the last show and the SP. Now, the last show shorter than the SP. In other words, that the punters gained and the SP was bigger, 747. That's not bad for the punters.
That's nice. Bonus. Thank you very much.
Now, all the punters seem to believe that the last show is then shortened up for the SP. Now, your figures prove it's not, 715.
That's the 715 that the punters remember. They're the ones that hurt. They're the ones that stick in the memory.
So you're absolutely certain there is no fiddle going on? SIS are not sending shorter SPs, or the SPs are not fiddled in any way on your figures?
Certainly not. Let's get one thing categorically clear. You know, John, that SIS have nothing to do with returning SPs. That's a job for the Sporting Life and the PA rep. SIS, all they try and do is to get the last show that they blow as near as the SP as possible, and in over 7 out of 10 cases they're successful. Very good.
Well, Extel, Exchange Telegraph, used to have a monopoly, and now they are still working there, and we Channel 4 get them, the BBC and some race phone lines, and you can compare the service that SIS and Extel are giving. So the first question is, Mike, do SIS delay the first show according to Vetabet?
They do on occasions, but quite justifiably so, John. If, for instance, a horse race is reaching its conclusion, they're entering the final furlong, a steeplechase race, they come into the final fence, they're not going to interrupt that to give the first show at another meeting. They'd be lynched.
Well, let's go and see the actual figures from April and May this year. The first show given by SIS was 103 times. 3, there was no difference between them. And in the other cases, it was Extel were in front. So it's 2-1, more than 2-1 in favour that Extel send an earlier show.
That's right, but bear in mind that satellite are broadcasting so much more information than Extel. Extel are basically covering the horse race meetings, SIS are covering greyhound meetings, they're giving tote dividends, jockey changes, weighing signs. There's so much more information they're giving.
And do SIS give an inadequate first show? Now let's have a look at the figures on this. SIS, 18,096 horses quoted in the first show. Extel, 2,703. That's a third more. Extel do quote more horses.
They do on the first show, certainly. SIS policy is that the first show will include 3, 4, 5, possibly 6 horses. But bear in mind that by the time the final show is given, that percentage has risen to over 90% of the horses have a quote. Over 90% of the horses. That's excellent.
Right. And now, Mike, should punters take the first show? This is the query for them. Look at these figures here. The first show better than SP. On Extel it was 78 and it's 82 with SIS. Now the first show worse than SP. In other words, if you'd taken the first show, you'd have lost money. It's 171 for Extel and it's 160 for SIS. And the first show, the same as SP, is 70 and 55. So those figures seem to say that unless you know something, don't take the first show.
Surprisingly but true, it would seem that you're far better off in a majority of cases to leave it unless you say you know something. SP, bookmakers, don't forget, when they open their betting, they're usually, the book is quite over round, and the nearer it gets to the off, the nearer they want to attract money. Very often it's a far lower over round book just before the off, so very often you're better off leaving it.
That's Mike Higgins there, and one point he makes absolutely clear, that the last show sent by SIS and then the starting price, it is not against the punter. The punter only remembers it, doesn't he? He doesn't remember the times it goes for him, and 70% of the time the SIS last show and the SP is exactly the same. So if we're going to say don't go and knock SIS for that, I think they're giving a tremendous service, and Vetabet, one or two exceptions, and you like the audio dogs. Apart from that, you're happy too?
Mainly, yes. I think if Bob Green, that's the ex-chairman, managing director of Mecca, he must be very proud of the way SIS has progressed since he started it all. It's his brainchild. Now, I think it's a very responsible adult.
And of course, Mike isn't old enough to remember the days of street bookmakers as I am, and the days when we had no pictures. I think SIS do a pretty good job, but they are being kept up to their mark. And Vetabet, they give the facts of the situation, not what you think that happens, the facts of the situation. And the facts very quickly. Absalon's price, Douglas, Absalon. It's 7-2, Absalon, the day's steamer, 7-2, put in 5-2 earlier on the course, 7-2, George Duffield's horse. Let's see what that's returned.
Malcolm Palmer, the Corals PR, the old suntan smoothie, they call him Palmer Mallorca, and he married Pam Gibson yesterday, and our real sorrow is for poor old Pam. I hope she had a good night last night. Having to put up with that old smoothie, I do not know. I feel really sorry for her. Now, in the Independent, Paul Haywood's done a very disappointing piece on Hamdan Al Maktoum. Now, Paul Haywood is one of the most promising of the racing hacks. Most of them are selling class anyway. He is on the way up, but look at this quote here he's got in when he says that Sheikh Hamdan also is the long-range favourites for next season's 1,000, 2,000 guineas in Shedaid and Mushtahid, respectively. And he goes on to say, gone are the comic book days when the top horses were called Flashy Boy or Rapid Lad. Well, fortunately, the days have not gone. Flashy Boy, good 2-mile chase, and, of course, Rapid Lad, the perennial Beverley specialist. But this piece here doesn't ask any serious questions. Why was Nashwan prematurely retired? The hard questions aren't asked. Paul will not be putting this in his scrapbook with any pride. Not one of his best pieces. Can do better. But going on about naming horses here, confusing in a letter in the Racing Post, Chris Hensby from Cambridge says, I'm not convinced that the various racing managers responsible for these animals can tell them apart. Perhaps readers could suggest a method of identifying them clearly to the punter. Well, I would suggest what was suggested the other week. All Arab-trained named horses should carry £14 penalties. With an Arab name, always £14 more on your backs. That would soon stop this nonsense, which is helping to ruin the game. Punters can't identify with these Arab horses. Interesting piece here from Simon Barnes in The Times on David Brown, the former England fast bowler, who's been taking up greyhound racing. He's named the dog who had a toe amputated. He's named it Titmus. After the great Middlesex off-spinner, of course, had that terrible accident when he had his toes amputated. Very sad, that, but of course I'm sure Fred will laugh at a joke like that. Splendid way. That's the way to name horses and dogs, with a bit of imagination. In the Telegraph, Tony Stafford said, trotters pray for the off. The first two races tonight at Lingfield will be trotting. Well, I'm praying that the scheme takes off. I don't think it will. I've seen trotting in America. It's really boring. I don't think it'll take off, but good luck to the people who are bringing it over, but whether the punters and the betting shops will ever catch on to that, I doubt it. And also the Telegraph, as the Sun have got the story as well, is that Laurie McMenemy is to become Graham Taylor's right-hand man for England. Big Mac back. That's really good news for the press and I think for football. Splendid character, Laurie McMenemy. And finally, in The Independent, they're talking about this great pop concert which is on Channel 4 tonight about the Berlin Wall, and it says it's going to have a 1 billion worldwide audience. obviously is going to be second only in the ratings to us on the Morning Live. More important than racing and Royal Ascot in the World Cup, it's Greyhound Derby final night at Wimbledon. Smashing piece here in the Racing Post. They have a supplement on it. And, of course, Prince Edward's dog, Drury's John Joe, 5-2 on. They're putting Drury's John Joe in. It's a great dog. It'd be superb for the sport if it could win. And, of course, the Mirror, who sponsored the race, the Life who sponsored the race with the Mirror, they give big coverage to it. And there's a great punter here, Russell Sampson, who backed Drury's John Joe at 200-1 with John Power after only one trial. And he's also backed 4 of the other dogs, 100-1 Fires of War, 33's Burnt Oak Champ and Galtymore Lad, and 14 about Fairhill Boy. I just hope Slippy Blue in trap 4 doesn't win and go and ruin him. What a superb punter that must be. He knows his dog's all right. Here in the Racing Post, the headline, Beaten Old Vic still on target for the King George. The great sadness I thought about old Vic's defeat, the top 3-year-old last year with the St Ledger winner Michelozzo trailing behind and the art winner Carroll House. We're all saying keep horses in training. You owners, don't be so mean sending him off to stud. Nashwan's off at stud now, earning a fortune. We'll never see him again. The brave owners who kept these horses in training, are they regretting it now? Let's hope not. Let's hope Carroll House, Michelozzo and old Vic come back. But the perils of keeping horses in training, it was shown, demonstrated very clearly at Ascot yesterday. Another thing shown at Ascot yesterday was the power of the owners over the trainers. And it's covered by Captain Heath. That's Colin Mackenzie in the Daily Mail. Deja, the Sprint King, thanks to Bold Shake. And he quotes here, he says, Dick Hearn believed that Thursday's continuous rain had ruined Deja's chance as he had shown all his best form on firm ground. And actually there was a thunderstorm as the race was just about to start. He goes on, he says, if Sheikh Hamdan had wavered, I'd have gone into retreat, joked the Major. That's Major Dick Hearn. So it's only because Sheikh Hamdan insisted on running Deja they won a Group 1 race. And you remember the Sheikh also insisted that Salsabil ran in the Oaks and John Dunlop didn't want to run it the trainer. One wonders really whether the owners know more than these wretched trainers. Wimbledon's coming up. So what we're getting today is this young lady. So what game she plays, I don't know, but that's up to her. And we've always dreaded and hated that Ivan Lendl, who looks like an evil beast, doesn't he? But he must be quite a character. He's got a gorgeous wife here, and the horse isn't too bad either. So they really are. So maybe it's going to be his year. He's really trained for grass. And he seemed a nice chap, actually, reading this here and seeing it. So maybe it's not quite so awful. One or two of us who want Ivan Lendl finally to win Wimbledon. And last of all, I must come to the headline of the century here in the Daily Star. And it's absolutely quite clear. The Dutch goalkeeper is saying clearly, we don't want Booby. Well, I don't want the Booby. Nobody else I know wants the Booby. The Star have got it right. Who wants the Booby? Take her off my hands, for God's sake. I don't want the Booby.
Roof went ablaze, and pretty quickly the whole thing was enveloped in flames. But the fire operators were on the scene very quickly, sorted the thing out. Just imagine what could have happened to the whole place. There's a lot of wood round this July course at Newmarket. Had it spread, but thankfully it didn't. They controlled the thing very quickly, cleared it up. The bar, of course, was completely destroyed. And if you want to know what it looks like now, well, very quickly indeed, one has to say, they've erected a marquee. And although the facilities might mean that you've got to wait a little bit longer with your tongue hanging out this afternoon, I'm sure there won't be any problem for anyone
getting a return to the racecourse of See You Then. Former winner of the Champion Hurdle, 3 successive Champion Hurdles, 86, 87 and 88. And as he cantered down to the start with Steve Smith-Eccles, I must say he did look superbly well. But would he be ring rusty after 2 years out of racing? Well, let's now see the closing stages of the race. Let's pick it up on the turn for home. And at this stage, See You Then is struggling in the right of the picture and has it all to do, John Oaksey, at this stage.
I'm afraid it's already clear that I don't know whether ring rusty is the right description, but I don't think this can be regarded as a satisfactory return. See You Then, in all his racecourse gallops, has raced freely from the start and quickened up the moment he was asked. Here, as you can see, I know he's giving them all weight, but at this moment he's struggling and not able to keep his place in the race at all.
And at this stage, coming over the second last, Royal Derby has come through to take it up from Don Valentino on the far side. Also, well, there is Peanuts Pet, but it's Royal Derby, who won so many races last year, jumps the last this side and runs on strongly to win quite well.
Yes, Neville Callahan's performed a considerable comeback with Royal Derby, because he's been disappointing in his last runs, but and so indeed was Don Valentino over on the far side. He runs better now, but it's Royal Derby up the stands rails, who runs on much too well for Don Valentino. Peanuts Pet in third place, and See You Then, sadly, right out the back.
So there it is. I can tell you, as you can see, he's trailing in a long, long way back. He actually was beaten 52 lengths, and according to Steve Smith-Eccles, who rode him, he said he hated the ground and never got into the race. And Nicky Henderson said he's going to have another race at Haydock in a couple of weeks' time, and only then will he decide about whether he runs in the champion hurdle. But he finished sound, as you can see, which is one good thing in his favour. But the bookies all around the country have taken him out of the betting for the champion hurdle. And on this sort of form, John, he's got no chance.
No, I'm afraid absolutely no chance on that. And there isn't that much time to work the miracle. That's the trouble. Nicky has worked a miracle with this horse before, brought him to Cheltenham with only one run, with practically no exercise or no public exercise. But this time, I'm afraid, it looks as though it's too
something
late.
very special. I've been joined by Willie Carson because I think he'll be looking forward to seeing a horse that he rode yesterday in the last race at York, the 440 race. The horse in question was called Marju, who is now 8-1 clear favourite for next year's 2,000 guineas. Now, this is an interesting horse because he's a half-brother to the great filly Salsabelle, and as he'd been showing plenty of promise on John Dunlop's gallops, as he went down to the post yesterday at York, he started a red-hot favourite, and he didn't let his supporters down, but the manner of his victory was pretty stunning.
And Marju comes out of stall 9. That's 3 from the left in the blue jacket as they come through the first furlong, certainly up with the early pace. And also there is Rechanet, not that far away is Salic Dance. Byzantine and Road to the Iron are showing a good pace too. And Tartan Tinker and Faudo are in a prominent position as they race through the first 2 furlongs. And it's Faudo and Road to the Isle who share it by length to Tartan Tinker in the red cap showing 3rd. Marju striped cap is 4. Salic Dance is 5. And they spin off the turn and down towards the 4 marker. Road to the Isle in the Sangster colours in the centre of the picture leading. Faudo, the grey, on the left is matching strides. And Marju and Willie Carson going comfortably in behind at this stage. Salic Dance is on the right in the apricot colours. Red cap is Tartan Tinker, and Crystal Heights is the horse with the white face going well. But with a striped cap, it's Marju, who's absolutely swinging through here as they come down towards the 2. Road to the Isle is running the rail, but it's Marju with a striped cap, and that one's really pulling double. 2 Road to the Isle in second. On the outside is Salic Dance. They've got a furlong to go, but it's really how far will Marju win. Road to the Isle is trying to quicken with him, but oh, what an impressive turn of foot this is. And Marju comes clear by 4, 5, 6, winning this very easily indeed. Marju the winner, Road to the Isle second, and a photo third.
Well, that looked very, very impressive. Willie, watching that, you're turning into the straight here in 3rd place. Was he running a bit green here around the bend or what?
Well, he's settled really well, which is very nice. I'm very pleased the way he did it. I'm just niggling on him, but I'm very happy on him. But the horse is very relaxed, and I'm trying to follow Pat there. As you can see, we came across to the stand side where the ground was a bit better. There, I just had to flick across his heels a little bit and come on Pat's outside. Now the horse wants to just run a bit, and you'll see him come strong on the... There he goes. You see he's come strong on the bridle because he came out from behind him and wanted to race. So I've just stopped him because it would have been a bit too soon to go to the front. And as I've sat there, he just went a bit lazy on me. He's going real strong there, but you'll see in a stride or 2, he just starts to go a bit lazy with me. And then at the furlong pole, I had to just change my hands, and I just niggled him for a couple of strides and then just sat down on him and let him run.
So he actually quickened up
just gonna,
without you having to do much at all?
Yeah, well, there he's, look, see his ears pricked. What the hell is this, he said.
Yeah.
You know, all these people and things. I just had to just send him there, 2 or 3 strides there, sent him. Now I'm just going to sit down and let him run.
Now, I was actually watching this from the press stand, which is about 20 yards this side of the winning post, and there were pressmen there jumping up and down in excitement, which for them is incredible. So what was it like, the feeling on the horse's back?
I'm feeling of a good horse, which is always very, very exciting. Gives you a little tingle down your spine.
I bet it does.
Yeah, but he's very nice, and of course he's bred right, isn't he?
Being a half-brother to the great Salsabelle.
Bred right, he's He looks like a racehorse, and he's got the temperament.
Does he feel anything like his half-sister?
No.
Not at all. Entirely different.
Totally different horse.
Now, looking at Marju, remember it was a 20-to-1 chance they were quoting it before it even raced for the 2,000 guineas, and the betting is quite clear now that Marju is going to be favourite. He's put in at 8-to-1. That's the best price with the major firms. Corals did lay it at 10-to-1 and brought it into 7-to-1. So Marju is an 8-to-1 favourite for the 2,000 guineas, and we've got to ask the question, are the bookmakers being stingy skinflints? I think the biggest skinflint of the lot of them, Mike Dillon of Ladbrokes. Mike, this does on the surface look absolutely appalling, Marju 8-to-1.
No, not at all, John. I mean, at the end of the day, we are catering for a demand. There was a lot of money for Marju before he ever ran, and obviously the signs were that he was a very good colt. We saw yesterday that was borne out. I mean, I had no hesitation in making the horse favourite yesterday, and I make no apology for making it favourite. At the end of the day, he's a lovely, relaxed horse. I mean, he moved to post beautifully. He travelled very well in the race. He let out half an inch of rain, and the horse was gone. He's got a classic pedigree. He's by a champion sire. And at the end of the day, in a year when we haven't seen a lot of very good two-year-olds, he's the horse that's excited me most, and he deserves to be favourite.
But if you put up, say you went 33, 25-to-1, which people say you should go now, are you saying you will be absolutely swamped out and have millions and millions of pounds of liabilities?
Well, the thing is that the 10-to-1 has been taken. I mean, the people that were 10-to-1, that has gone, and it's now 7-to-1. So, I mean, I think that the fact is that 8 is the current trading price. It's basically a matter of supply and demand. We saw money for the horse, and we shortened it accordingly. And bear in mind, it's the punters that make the market, not the bookmakers. We get asked for the horses.
But if, for instance, a horse wins a maiden at Nottingham these days, it seems shortens up for the classics. Get a horse wins a Cellar at Newton Abbot, it's favourite for the Triumph Hurdle. It's that kind of thing. Punters are saying. John. Michael Stout's always complaining about it as well. Every horse of his that seems to win is shortened up straight away in a short price for the classics.
No, and that's not. I mean, it's supply and demand. We react to the weight of money. I mean, the horse that wins a maiden at Nottingham, if he's a very good horse, I mean, Oh So Sharp won at Nottingham, Salterbill won at Nottingham. Were we wrong to price those horses? I mean, the value's there. I mean, look at this time last year, John Machiavellian was 25-to-1. He went to post 7-to-4. He didn't win, but he was 7-to-4. Now, the people who had 25-to-1 would say they had good value. All through the winter, Salterbill was 20-to-1. She trots up in the Guinness at 6-to-1.
You're very keen on the racing. What do you prefer, the flat or the jumping?
I must say I prefer jumps, really.
Why is that?
Well, there's more drama in jumping, and also it allows me to look forward to the winter, which I used to hate.
Yeah.
But now, because I'm involved with that, I look forward to the rain, and, you know, because I'm looking forward to the horses being trained and going to see them.
Jeanette, what about you? You're a racing widow. Do you get involved as well?
Yeah, I'm very much involved. I love it.
Mm-hmm. And who's your favourite jockey?
Oh,
Mark Pittman, because he rides the horses. Yeah. Now, tell us about your horses at the moment. When will we be seeing them?
Well, we have Gainsay, a part-owned Gainsay, and as you know, we've had a lot of good fun with him. And we have another one called Do Be Brief, both trained by Jenny Pittman, and that's very useful. Had a good year last year, and we're looking forward to having some fun this year.
But what about Gainsay? Is he going to win the Grand National this season?
I don't think we'll put him through that again, but he's been a fabulous horse. We've had a lot of fun with him, and we've kept him in training, hoping that he'll do well in a couple of races to keep him going.
Well, it's nice to see you both here, and thank you for taking time out to join me today.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks, you too.
Royal Academy. Can he achieve the impossible? 2 weeks ago, he wasn't even a jockey. Now he rides Royal Academy. Do you think he'll stay the mile on the softish ground?
I think his only chance of winning is if he sets off about now.
Oh, you don't fancy him?
That is cruel. That is very cruel. I didn't know anything about that until about 2 minutes ago. But I've never been more pleased to be wrong about a horse. Well, he got a great ride from Leicester. It was great for all the British supporters who went over to the Breeders' Cup. It really was a wonderful evening's racing, and as I said, great for Vincent O'Brien and classic thoroughbred. I shan't mind being wrong if we have that sort of result again. Right, well, that was last week. Let's get on to this week. We've got...
Prof Scott. Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Dettori.
She's equipped for some north of the border excitements, and exactly what that's on the head answers on a postcard, please. I think it's what the dog sits on, but anyway. That's a bit kind.
Talk about hats and accessories. What about this? The time may be wrong, but as John says, she's got time on her side. Now, while John Frankham and I work extremely hard, we see what presenters on Channel 4 do when most of us have our heads in the form book.
The hard-working team.
There's going to be a lot of famous people here.
Am I here?
I don't know yet. Are you going to be here?
Well, the other chap isn't here, is he?
Who?
The little fellow you can't get in the case.
Oh, the other...
Lord Oaksey.
Yes, I know you meant.
Is he any relation to Lord Charles?
I think he is, yes. You're damn good. Who are you? Oh, by the way, excuse me, I've got to say, hello, Brenda. I said I would.
Brenda?
Yes, she runs an auto license.
Oh, well, that's important.
Yes, well, to me it is, yes.
Now, where's the cameraman? Is that you under there? Hi, how are you doing? Is it nice and dry? Are you enjoying yourself? Don't you wish you'd ever got that job in the bank?
No, I wouldn't do that. I mean, I just absolutely love your outfit. I mean, just look at this.
What a sweetie you are.
Is it true I've heard the most interesting thing in your trousers is the label?
You see, what chance have you got? It is the truth, yes, but you shouldn't know that.
I should have told me.
Come on, Archie. Great standard man. Very popular lad here, Archie Theobald. What do you think of old Julian Wilson, then?
He's all right, but he's a pain in the neck.
Well, these lot are sprinters, but we've got something considerably quicker than them.
Oh, what a lovely sight. A really beautiful British sight. Well, I hope it's British. It might be half French, actually.
Well, it's nonetheless pretty for that.
3 favourites have won it in 9 runnings. Opposition very strong, though, to Max Fighter amongst the pros. But my noble lord, one punter's come to me and says, give us a winner, John. I'm on the sausage. My noble lord, when were you last on the sausage?
I'm ashamed to say it, I don't know what it means.
The sausage roll means the dough, my noble lord.
What do you think of Leicester's comeback?
I tell you what, I watched a few jockeys today, and I would suggest Leicester Piggott is far superior, even now. Even
now.
at 74, he'll be far superior. And give me knighthood back.
I think
Never mind his MBE. Never mind his MBE. Give him his knighthood.
Yes.
He's the baddest ambassador to racing that's ever been.
True.
And that's the only reason he should get his knighthood.
Yeah.
Forget about him fiddling tax, man. We all do that.
They're all winning, aren't they? The bookies haven't got a chance. 5 and 6.
You haven't got a chance.
Of course
Isn't it
you
terrible?
have. Absolutely.
Oh, should we have a whip round for you? Give your hat. Give him some money for the bookmaker. Shall we go and help him out?